I used to think life was straightforward, at least, that's what I'd always been told. My parents, in their own perfectly imperfect way, raised me to believe in hard work, family, and faith above all else. We were the kind of family that never missed a Sunday at church. Everyone had their role, and everything felt like it followed a predictable rhythm. I'd grown up believing that if you put in the effort, you'd get what you earned. That's the life I thought I was building with Sophia. Sophia and I had been together since freshman year, 2 years now. We met in the library, both of us buried in textbooks. I can still hear her laugh echoing through that quiet room. Right then, I just knew this was real. We were solid. A team. We dreamed big, and it felt like nothing could stop us. I could already see the whole future. Graduate, get steady jobs, maybe buy a small place just outside the city, adopt a dog, start a family. You know, that simple, clean-cut version of the American dream. I even imagined our house, white picket fence, a little backyard where the kids could run around. We were on track. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. It was a Thursday night. We just finished dinner, and Sophia was quieter than usual, fidgety, like she had something big on her mind. Then she looked at me, eyes wide, and everything seemed to slow down. "David," she said, her voice trembling. I'm pregnant." I froze. It was like my brain just shut off for a second, trying to catch up to what she'd just said. "What?" I whispered. My heart was pounding. "How? Are you sure? How long have you known?" I asked, stumbling over my words. She bit her lip, twisting her hands. "I found out last week," she said. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you, but I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I'm going to have a baby." I stood there, stunned. This wasn't part of the plan. We were still in school. Everything felt so uncertain already. My thoughts were all over the place, none of them making any real sense. We had our dreams. We had a roadmap, and this wasn't on it. I sat down beside her, trying to breathe through the panic. "Sophia, we're not ready for this. We're still figuring things out. I haven't even finished school. How are we supposed to handle a baby?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I know," she said quietly. "I didn't expect it either. But I want to keep it. I'm scared too, but I can't just walk away from this. I can't imagine not having this child." Her words hit hard. A knot formed in my chest. "But Sophia, we can barely take care of ourselves. This changes everything." She nodded slowly. "I know. It's terrifying. But it's real, David. It's happening whether we're ready or not. And I want to do this. I want this baby." Panic swept over me again, crashing like a wave. "But what about our future? What about us?" "I don't know if I can do this," I admitted. "I don't even know how." She reached for my hand, her fingers cold and shaky. "I'm scared too," she whispered. "But I know what I want. We don't have all the answers, but I believe we can figure it out. Together." I looked at her, really looked, and saw it. Her mind was made up. She wasn't asking me for permission. She was letting me know where she stood. The choice was hers, and I didn't blame her. I was terrified, but I also knew this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about us. About stepping into something we didn't expect but had to face together. No matter how scared I was, I couldn't walk away from her. Deep down, I knew this was the right thing for her, for us. So I stood with her, ready to face whatever came next. But nothing, not a single thing in my life, had prepared me for what happened after that. It was a cold morning when everything shattered. Sophia had been distant for days. Her usual spark was gone, replaced by this heavy cloud of guilt and anxiety. I could feel something was off, but I didn't know what. Then, finally, she sat me down. "David," she said, her voice shaking. "I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what was coming, but the tears in her eyes told me it wasn't good. She turned away, wiping her face like she could erase what she was about to say. "I wasn't completely honest with you," she said softly. I was also with Lucas." "Lucas? My brother?" My heart stopped. My brain couldn't even process it. I just stared at her, everything inside me spinning. "What?" I whispered. "You and Lucas?" "Sophia, you can't be serious." She broke down, sobbing into her hands. "I'm so sorry, David. I didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake." "A mistake," I said, my voice rising. "Sophia, how could you do this to me? After everything we've been through? 2 years, and this." Her voice barely made it through her crying. "I didn't plan this. I never wanted to hurt you. But it happened. And now I'm pregnant. And Lucas is the father." The room started spinning. I felt like I was falling and couldn't find the ground. Lucas. My brother. My best friend. The one person I trusted more than anyone else. And now this. He slept with Sophia. My own brother. And now, he was the father of her baby. The rage, the shock, the heartbreak, it all hit me like a freight train. I couldn't take it. I needed to hear it straight from him. I needed him to say it out loud. So I grabbed my phone and called him. The phone rang twice before he picked up, sounding like he didn't have a care in the world. "Yeah," he said. "Lucas," I started, my voice barely holding steady. "We need to talk. I know about you and Sophia. Just tell me it's not true. Please." There was this long pause. Then he finally said, cool as ice, "David, it happened. So what? We're adults. It was a one-time thing. It doesn't mean anything. Let's not dwell on it. Just move on." "Move on?" I felt my insides twist. "Move on," I snapped. "You slept with my girlfriend, and you're telling me it's no big deal? You're my brother. You were supposed to be my best friend." He let out this sigh, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Look, I'm sorry it happened this way, but it did. Making a scene won't change that. You'll have to accept it at some point." His voice was so flat, so indifferent, it was like a slap in the face. My hands were shaking. "That's it," I said. "That's all you've got to say?" "Pretty much," he replied, and then hung up. I just stood there, stunned. My heart was pounding. He didn't even apologize. It was like he felt entitled, like he hadn't done anything wrong. When I got home, Lucas was in his room. The moment he saw me, he tried to run, but I caught him. And I snapped. I beat him. I didn't hold back. I hit him until my knuckles were raw and bleeding. Then Dad rushed in, pulled me off, dragged me out of the room. He didn't yell. He didn't ask what happened. He just went back to Lucas. The confusion, the fury, the pain, it didn't stop there. Mom came in next. I told her everything. I told her Sophia was pregnant and that Lucas was the father. But her reaction? It chilled me. She wasn't surprised. She wasn't angry. She just looked at me, calm, like she'd been expecting it. Then she said, "This is all part of God's plan, David. It's in his hands now. We have to accept it." I stared at her, shocked. "Accept it? Mom, my life is falling apart, and you're telling me it's divine intervention." She gave a little shrug. "Everything happens for a reason, David. Even the painful things. We don't always see the purpose, but it's there. We all have a role to play." Dad, who usually ruled with a tight grip, nodded in agreement. Not a word about Lucas. Not one. It was like what he'd done didn't even matter. I tried to explain how hurt I was, how betrayed I felt, how lost, but it was like talking to a wall. Nothing I said seemed to reach them. Then they started talking about forgiveness, about family, about how I needed to support Lucas. "You need to rise above this," Mom said softly, as if she'd rehearsed it. "This is your chance to show love, to forgive. Your brother made a mistake. Now we all have to move forward. Let it go, David. Trust that this is all part of something bigger." My blood was boiling. Let it go? They wanted me to just forgive him like it was nothing? I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake them and make them understand how much this hurt. But I couldn't. I just stood there, chest tight, frozen by disbelief. "You don't understand," I said through clenched teeth. "This isn't just some spiritual test. This is real. He betrayed me. And you're telling me to just forgive?" Dad finally spoke, cool and composed. "You're the older brother, David. You need to set the example. We've done everything for you. Now it's your turn to lead with compassion." Compassion? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was supposed to show compassion to the guy who took everything from me? They didn't get it. None of them saw the pain. None of them saw how deep it ran. "You don't get it," I said, my voice shaking. "You're asking me to act like none of this happened. Like I'm supposed to smile through it all. You don't know what it feels like to be stabbed in the back by someone you love." Mom's face softened a little, but there was no real understanding, just pity. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," she said. "Forgive him, David. Do it for your peace of mind. We can't carry this anger forever." I laughed bitterly, but it didn't sound like a laugh. More like a crack. "Forgive him," I said. Forgive him for what? For wrecking my life? For turning everything I knew upside down? But they always gave the same answer. Over and over again. "It's part of God's plan, David. Everything happens for a reason." They didn't want to face what really happened. They couldn't, or wouldn't, acknowledge the pain I was in, or that my whole future had just been ripped out from under me. It was easier for them to hide behind their beliefs, to cling to this idea that everything was part of some divine plan, rather than admit how cruel and unfair it all was. I felt trapped by their narrow view of the world, like I was suffocating in a house full of people who refused to see me. The days after that were no better. Every conversation with my parents felt like a punch to the gut, a reminder that I was stuck living a life that didn't even feel like mine anymore. They kept pushing this narrative that I needed to be better, stronger, more forgiving. that I should rise above it all. But the more they pushed, the more I felt like I was disappearing, like I was being crushed under the weight of their expectations. One night, as we sat around the dinner table in this weird, fake calm, my dad spoke up. "David," he said, "we've given you everything. We've worked hard, made sacrifices. Now it's your turn to help make this right. Show us you're a man of character, that you're stronger than all this. Make it right." What was there to fix? This wasn't some small family misunderstanding. This was betrayal, deep, personal, devastating. And they just didn't seem to get that. They kept telling me what I needed to do, what the right thing was, without once listening to how I felt. Every word out of their mouths felt like another attempt to shove me into a box I didn't belong in. This wasn't love. It was control, dressed up as righteousness. They had already chosen a side. They were backing Lucas and Sophia, and they expected me to fall in line like nothing had happened. I tried to keep it together. I really did. But then the words came spilling out. Tight, fast, desperate. "I can't do this," I said. "I can't support him. Not after what he did. He betrayed me. How am I supposed to forget that and just pretend everything's fine?" Dad's face turned red. He slammed his fist on the table, making me jump. "You're being selfish," he snapped. "This is about family. Your brother needs you, and you're abandoning him when he needs you the most. We've always supported you. Now it's your turn." I slammed my fist down, too, and stood up. "I'm not pretending this is normal. What Lucas did, that's not something you just move past. It's not about being a good brother. It's about trust, and he broke it." Mom reached out, her hand shaking as she grabbed mine. Her voice cracked. "Please, David, you don't understand. This is a test of faith. God's plan is bigger than us. You have to trust it." Her words didn't comfort me. They strangled me. "You've never held him accountable," I said. "Not once. You let him do whatever he wanted, and now you want me to go along with it? I won't. I have a future to think about. I can't clean up his mess. It's not my job." Silence fell. Then Dad spoke, voice flat and cold. "Then you're no longer welcome here." I froze. My heart stopped. "What?" I asked, not sure I heard him right. "You heard me," he said. "If you won't support your family, if you can't accept the situation, you need to leave. We won't have that kind of energy in this house." I couldn't believe it. They were serious. They were really kicking me out. "I have nowhere to go," I said, my voice shaking. "This is my home. My whole life is here." "You'll figure it out," Mom said softly. There was sorrow in her eyes, but something final, too. "Maybe it's for the best. Maybe there's something you need to learn from this. But if you can't support your brother, you can't stay." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I held them back. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. "This isn't right," I whispered. They didn't respond. They just turned away. That was it. Their minds were made up. So I packed a bag, grabbing whatever I could while trying not to fall apart. I walked out the front door, leaving behind everything I had known. And just like that, I was on my own. The first few weeks were a blur. I crashed on a friend's couch, doing my best to hold myself together. But everything felt like it was falling apart. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured my old room, now turned into a nursery. And it crushed me. I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. I didn't want to play the victim. But every time I remembered what had happened, how fast everything crumbled, this wave of bitterness washed over me, and I couldn't shake it. Nothing felt real anymore. My world, my future, everything I believed in, it was just gone. I never looked back. But deep down, I still couldn't stop wondering how things got so messed up. How everything went so wrong. How did everything fall apart so fast? How did the people who were supposed to have my back, my own family, turn into complete strangers? The college fund I'd spent years saving, the one I trusted them to hold on to, was gone. Just like that. Now, it was being funneled into raising their golden boy's precious child. That money? I wasn't getting it back. I didn't have the means to fight it. Taking them to court felt like a mountain I wasn't strong enough to climb. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the silence. Suddenly, I wasn't part of anything. No texts, no calls, no invites to dinner. It was like I had been wiped from their memory. I used to be the one they leaned on, the one they called in a crisis. My parents had once promised me the world, and now they acted like I was a stranger standing outside their door. One day, I sent a short message to my mom. Just something simple. "How are you? I miss you guys." She replied, but it was cold. Almost like a customer service response. "We're fine. Lucas is doing great. He's really stepping up for Sophia and the baby. He'll make a wonderful dad." That was it. No asking how I was doing. No mention of my struggles. Just more about Lucas. Always Lucas. It was clear. I had been replaced. Every rare conversation we did have circled back to him. how responsible he was being, how committed he was to Sophia, how proud they were that he was becoming a father. Like they had forgotten everything. The betrayal, the pain, the way he had crossed every line that mattered. None of that seemed to mean anything to them. They'd made their choice. And I wasn't part of it. For the next few months, I focused on surviving. I signed up for classes at a local community college, figured it was better than nothing, even though it felt like a step backward. I picked up shifts at a coffee shop to scrape by. I did my best not to think about what had happened. Tried not to let my parents' choices consume me. But no matter how hard I worked to move forward, the anger always came back. One night, after a long shift, I sat alone in my dim, quiet apartment. I had lost everything. The life I had worked so hard to build, the future I had imagined, was gone. All because I had tried to do right by my family. I never thought they'd turn on me like that. Never imagined they'd choose Lucas and Sophia over me. And yet, here I was. Alone. Staring at bare walls, trying to accept that this was my new reality. The pain, the confusion, the rage, they were still there, bubbling under the surface. But what I felt most was a hollow emptiness. Because no matter how hard I tried to move on, it felt like everything that mattered had been ripped away, and it couldn't be replaced. It wasn't just about losing my family. It was about losing where I belonged, losing my place in the world. And that's not something you can ever fully get back. Years went by. I never called them. I stopped expecting anything. Eventually, the silence just became normal, something I lived with like background noise. Then one day, a number popped up on my phone. A number I hadn't seen or even thought about in years. I froze. Just stared at the screen. My heart started pounding like it remembered something my brain was trying to forget. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Let it go to voicemail. Let it fade into the silence it deserved. But I was curious. And curiosity always had a way of winning with me. So, I answered. Hello. My voice was steady, careful, hiding the chaos inside. Son, she said. Her voice cracked and trembled, but I knew it immediately. My mom. She said my name like it meant something. Like just saying it might undo the years between us. Like it could somehow make everything okay again. I didn't respond. I let the silence sit there, thick and heavy. I wanted her to feel the weight of all those years, the time they spent shutting me out, acting like I never existed. I let it hang in the air, pressing down on both of us. Her breath hitched, and then she started talking again. Her words tumbled out in a mess, like she'd been rehearsing them but couldn't get them out right. David, we've lost everything, she said, voice shaking. The house, our savings, it was some bad investment. Fraud or something. I don't know. Your dad was too proud to ask for help until it was too late. Now, we can't even keep the lights on. She paused. Her voice cracked like glass under pressure. I could hear the tears just behind her words. I let it sit there. Let it twist in the silence like smoke in a closed room. Then she asked if I was still there. I realized I hadn't even breathed. Slowly, I let out the air, kept my voice flat, distant. I'm here, I said. Go on. She took a breath, and her regret poured out like a flood. I wish things had gone differently, David. I regret everything. How we treated you. I never wanted to hurt you. Then came the plea. Please, come home. We need you. You're all we have left. Please. Be the son we need now. Her words kept coming, each one heavier than the last. And I could feel it, how much she wanted me to fix it all. To come back and patch up the pieces. But this time, it wasn't the same as before. There was something in her voice, so desperate, so broken, that I couldn't ignore. Like she actually believed a single phone call and a few tearful words could magically erase years of damage. I let the silence stretch for a beat. When I finally spoke, my voice came out cool and steady, stripped of any emotion. You know, I said, carefully, it's been 3 years since you all decided I wasn't worth keeping around. 3 years since everything I'd worked for was handed over to someone who never lifted a finger to earn it. I paused, my tone flat. You picked him. And now, after all this time, you think a few tears and an apology are enough to fix that. I let the words hang there, heavy. I've spent the past 3 years rebuilding my life. Alone, brick by brick. Not because I wanted to, but because you left me no choice. I never asked to be cut off by the people who were supposed to love me. I never asked to be abandoned. I didn't need to shout. The calmness in my voice cut sharper than any raised tone ever could. It was clinical, precise. She tried to cut in, but I didn't give her the space. She didn't get to control this conversation. Not anymore. I need you to understand something, I continued, still measured, still steady. You can't rewrite the past just because it's convenient now. You didn't need me back then, and you don't need me now. That much is clear. Her response came fast, choked with panic. David, please, do you really hate us so much you'd let us suffer? We're your parents. Blood matters. Family matters. That pushed something in me, something sharp. I laughed, but it wasn't out of amusement. It was bitter, hollow, a sound that didn't even feel like it belonged to me. Blood only seems to matter when you need something, doesn't it? I shot back. When you're drowning, suddenly I'm family again. But when I was left with nothing, when I was barely surviving, where were you? You turned your backs on me. She gasped. Her sobs filled the line, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. I'm just a guy trying to make sense of a world that chewed him up, I said, my voice steady but hard. If this mess is part of some divine plan, then fine. Who am I to interfere? Maybe I was supposed to be cast out. Maybe I was supposed to be forgotten. Her voice came back, frantic now. Please, David, we regret it. We do. We've changed, I swear we have. But I didn't flinch. Regret doesn't mean anything to me, I told her. That's between you and your conscience. It's not my job to carry your guilt. I'm not your redemption arc. I'm not your savior. There was a long pause. I could hear her crying, really crying this time. And then she reached for the past, like dusting off old photo albums she thought could still matter. She tried to remind me of who we used to be, of when I was a kid, of moments we shared. I loved you then, she whispered. I love you now. I always have. Love isn't something you flip on and off like a switch, I replied. And what you showed me back then, what you did to me, that wasn't love. That was control. That was betrayal. And now that everything's crumbling, you want to call it God's plan. I didn't soften my words. Her sobs only got louder, but they didn't move me. I'd spent too many nights crying alone, too many days wondering if the pain would ever stop. Her tears didn't matter now. They couldn't fix what was broken beyond repair. You made your choices, I said, and they came with consequences. I don't owe you anything. Not my money, not my time, not even my sympathy. There was a beat of silence before I added, you should call Lucas. He's the one you picked over me. He's the one you believed in. If someone's going to help you now, it should be him. She tried to keep talking, tried to plead again, but her words were tangled in sobs. I could barely understand her. I wish you peace in your faith, I said, my voice low and distant. The same faith you used to justify abandoning me. And with that, I hung up. I sat there, staring at the phone, waiting for some kind of feeling to show up. Anger, sadness, guilt, anything. But nothing came. Just this heavy stillness. The space between us had grown too wide, too cold, too permanent. There was no going back. I set the phone down like it was something I didn't recognize anymore. And then I got up and kept going like nothing had happened. Maybe that was the scariest part. That their pain didn't matter to me anymore. That I had finally become what they made me, a stranger. And just as I was starting to settle back into the quiet, the phone buzzed again. I glanced down. Lucas. My chest tightened, but I didn't let it show. I wasn't ready to deal with him. Not after everything. Still, I answered. My thumb hovered over the screen for a second longer than it should have. I knew I wasn't going to be the same person he used to know. David, he said. His voice was calm, like nothing had happened. I wanted to talk. The second I heard him, the memories came flooding back, the ones I'd worked so hard to bury. The betrayal, the lies, everything. My stomach turned, but I kept it hidden. What do you want? I asked, my tone cold and guarded. I wasn't here to make anything easy for him. He spoke slowly, like each word had to be carefully chosen, like he was tiptoeing through the wreckage of everything he'd broken. I know things have gotten messy, David, Lucas said, his voice more serious than I expected. But that's not really what I called about. There's something I need to explain. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to give him the chance to justify any of it, to spin the truth, or twist the knife in deeper. And yet, some stubborn part of me, some stupid, quiet piece that still clung to the idea of accountability, kept listening. I'm sorry, he said. Those two words just floated there, hanging in the space between us like smoke. Thin, weak, almost meaningless. I messed up, he went on. I didn't know how to deal with it all, and it spiraled. I never wanted things to turn out like this. For a moment, I felt something shift in my chest. A flicker of doubt. Maybe he really meant it. Maybe there was something genuine behind that voice. But then came the heat. That familiar wave of anger, fast and unrelenting, rising before I could hold it back. I'm sorry. I repeated, my voice tight with sarcasm. That's it. That's all you've got. The bitterness hit hard, each word falling out of my mouth like something I'd been storing for years. After everything? After you ripped my life apart? After you stood there and let them erase me? He went quiet. Too quiet. Like he was searching for the right words, but coming up empty. I didn't care anymore. I wasn't waiting around for him to say the perfect thing, because there was nothing he could say that would fix what he broke. Even if he meant every word, it didn't matter. Not now. His apology felt like slapping a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Too little. Way too late. When he finally spoke again, his voice was lower, less guarded. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, he said. I'm not asking for money or expecting you to fix anything. I'm just trying to make it right for you, for Sophia, for the baby. And there it was. Sophia. The baby. As if they were the center of the story now. As if I was just some background character in their redemption arc. I felt the cold return, washing over every flicker of feeling that might have been left. He still didn't get it. You don't get to fix this, I snapped. Not now. My patience cracked. I could feel it splintering into sharp, dangerous edges. Stop, I shouted, my voice shaking with fury. Just stop talking. This wasn't about guilt or peace. It was about betrayal. And he'd made his choice a long time ago. Nothing he said could rewind time. Nothing could bring back what he destroyed. He tried again, his voice trembling. More apologies. More desperation. But I was already gone. Checked out, emotionally and mentally done. You can say sorry 100 times, I said coldly. But it won't change a thing. Not for me. And then I ended the call. A week passed. The silence started to feel normal again. But just like before, my phone rang at the same time. Same jolt to the chest. Only this time, it wasn't Lucas. It was Sophia. The name stopped me cold. My brother's wife. The mother of the child I'd been cast aside to make room for. Her name lit up the screen like a cruel joke. I froze, but curiosity pulled at me again, and I answered. Hello. Her voice was soft, hesitant. David, hi. I hope you're okay. I said nothing. Let the silence do the talking. She waited, then tried again. It's been a while. I'm sorry to call like this. I heard what happened last week. Your mom told me. Things are really bad. Her tone changed. There was a plea in it now. I know you're angry. And you have every right to be. I just wanted to ask you to think about one thing, your nephew. There it was. The angle. The emotional hook. He's innocent, she said. He didn't ask for any of this. He doesn't deserve to suffer for our mistakes. He looks up to you, even though he's never even met you. My jaw clenched. That bitterness started bubbling up again, slow but relentless. He deserves a fair shot, she continued. And if you could find it in your heart to forgive, it could change everything for. Stop. I cut in, my voice like ice. Don't say another word about that child. She froze on the other end. Maybe she thought I'd fold the second a baby was mentioned. Maybe she assumed I still had that soft spot. I didn't mean to upset you, she said, her voice small now. I just thought. No, I said sharply, cutting her off. You thought dragging a kid into this would pull at my heart. You thought you could guilt me into forgetting what you all did. But if that's really what you believe, then you're more out of touch than I thought. She let out a shaky breath. I just wanted you to understand the situation. I do, I snapped. I understand it perfectly. There was a beat of silence before she tried again. Family should stick together, especially during hard times. That was it. That was the trigger. You don't get to talk to me about family, I growled. Not after what happened. Not after they tossed me out to make room for you and your child. David, please. No. Let me finish. I could feel my chest rising and falling, sharp and uneven. Do you know what they did with my college savings? All of it. Every last cent. They drained it to build a nursery. For the baby of the same man who stabbed me in the back. Who tore my life apart. She didn't say a word. Didn't even try. And now you want to talk to me about family? I scoffed, this bitter laugh pushing its way out like a reflex. Why don't you go talk to my brother? Your husband. The golden boy. Where is he now? Still hiding behind you, like he always does. He's trying, she whispered. He's working long hours. He's doing his best to support us. Support. I laughed again, flat and cruel. That man's never supported anyone but himself. He's selfish, reckless, and always looking for someone to bail him out. I didn't pull punches. If you married him thinking he'd be anything else, that's your mistake, Sophia. Not mine. She started to cry, her voice breaking apart as she begged. Please, David. I'm begging you. We're barely holding on. We don't know how we're going to make it. We're about to lose everything. The house, the car. Her voice dropped. I'm scared. I'm scared for my son. You're scared? I snapped. You should have thought about that before you threw your lot in with my brother. Before you helped push me out. David, No, my voice was low, cutting. You made your choice. You picked him. So now you live with that. She tried to hold herself together, but I could hear her unraveling. He's just a little boy, she whispered. He doesn't deserve. Don't. I interrupted, ice in my tone. That kid is your responsibility, not mine. You don't get to play the victim now and expect me to sweep in like the hero. Go find someone else to fall for the guilt trip. There was a pause, a quiet so thick I could hear her breathe. Then she spoke again, softer than before. I know you're a good person, David. I know deep down you still care. Maybe not about us, but maybe for the child. I felt my jaw tighten, and then the words came out before I could even stop them. You're a coward, Sophia, for trying to use a child like that as leverage, for thinking I'd just forget everything because now it's inconvenient for you to remember. Forgive you, I said with a bitter scoff. You're out of your mind. She broke down again, sobbing quietly on the other end, but I didn't let up. You want help? I said, voice steady and sharp. Go to the man who ruined everything. Your husband. My brother. The two of you. You deserve each other. You take and never give anything back. Her cries grew louder, jagged and messy. I didn't flinch. Save your tears, I told her coldly. They don't work on me. Not anymore. And I ended the call. My hands were shaking, not from guilt, but from something deeper. Anger. That slow, steady kind that doesn't boil over. It just settles in and stays. I sat there staring at my phone, its black screen reflecting my own tired face. And for just a moment, I thought about the kid. The one she dangled in front of me like a bargaining chip. Guilt twisted inside me, but it didn't last. Because the truth hit just as quickly. That child isn't my responsibility. He didn't end up in that chaos because of me. That was them. Lucas, Sophia, my parents. They made those decisions. They wrecked everything. And now that the walls were closing in, they were scrambling for a scapegoat. But it was never going to be me. 15 days passed. The storm had quieted, but in its place, there was this strange, numbing stillness. I figured I was done. That all of it, those people, were finally behind me. But life, of course, doesn't work that way. It likes to toss one last curveball just when you think you're safe. Mid-morning, my phone rang. I almost ignored it. Unknown number. Probably spam. Or maybe another weak attempt at guilt from someone tied to my past. Still, something in me said, answer it. Hello. I said, wary. David? The voice came, warm and familiar. This is Pastor Samuel. The name hit me like a distant echo. Faint, almost forgotten. Pastor Samuel. The youth pastor with the tired eyes and soft voice. I hadn't seen him since I was 17. Church had always been a requirement in our house. But for me, it never felt like refuge. It felt like another form of control, just dressed up in scripture. I kind of remember you, I said cautiously. I get it. It's been a long time, he replied, gently. I'm not calling to lecture. Your parents came by the church. They were in rough shape, asked for guidance. Your name came up. I let out a dry scoff. Of course it did. I'm not here to take sides, he added quickly, like he saw it coming. I'm not calling to tell you what to do. I just wanted to hear your story. If you're willing to share it. I didn't respond right away. My eyes drifted to the window. The light outside cast long, thin shadows across my floor. He kept going. David, I can't pretend to know what you've lived through, but I want to give you space to speak. Not as a pastor, not as someone trying to fix you, just someone willing to listen. His voice stopped me in my tracks. It didn't sound like the others. No judgment, no pressure, no agenda. I'll talk, I said slowly, but on my terms. Absolutely, he said without missing a beat. This isn't going to be some emotional reunion, I warned. It's not a story with a happy ending where everyone hugs and forgives and moves on. If you're expecting that, I said, you need to hear everything first. All of it. I'm here, he replied quietly. Say whatever you need to. No interruptions. No filters. Just you. I sat back in my chair, took a deep breath, and looked up at the ceiling. The cracks in the paint reminded me of time, of all the years that passed while I was being erased. All right, I said. Let me tell you what happened. My voice was steady at first, almost detached, like I was reading a story I'd filed away years ago. Slowly, piece by piece, I laid it all out for Pastor Samuel. Not with anger, not with drama, just facts. Like I was explaining someone else's pain. Maybe that made it easier, putting distance between me and the mess. I told him about the betrayal, about the years of silence, about how my family had tossed me aside like I was just a problem they didn't want to solve. He didn't interrupt. Just the occasional soft hum of understanding. A quiet, or a gentle, I see. There was no sermon, no scripture. No, what would Jesus do moment. Just space. Space to finally speak, maybe for the first time in years without being cut off or judged. I told him how I rebuilt my life from the ground up. How anger had been the fuel for a while, but not the foundation. I found peace in distance. In boundaries. Not forgiveness. I told him about Sophia's call. How everything they'd said lately felt more like manipulation than remorse. It didn't feel like they were sorry, they felt cornered. That's not the same. When I finished, there was a long pause. Just the faint static of the call. I could tell he was still there, just trying to find the right words. And when he finally spoke, it wasn't what I expected. "I'm deeply sorry for what you've been through," Pastor Samuel said, his voice low and genuine. "No one deserves to be treated like that, especially not by their own family." No preaching, no correction, just compassion. "I'll be honest," he continued, "I didn't know the full story. Your parents gave me their version. It sounded very different." I closed my eyes. Of course they did. I came into this call thinking maybe I'd suggest forgiveness, that maybe it was time for healing. But now I understand, it's not that simple. He paused, then said it plainly. "What you experienced wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was abandonment. It was betrayal. That hit me harder than I expected. Hearing it from someone like him, from a voice tied to the very institution that used to shame me, it shook something loose inside me. If forgiveness ever comes," he said softly, "it has to be on your terms. In your time. And if that day never comes, that's okay too. You have every right to protect your peace." I didn't answer right away. Just stared up at the ceiling, tracing the cracks in the paint like they were old scars. But something in me felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying a weight for so long I didn't even know it was there, until someone helped lift it, just a little. "Thank you for listening, Pastor," I said, my voice quieter, but still firm. "But I want to be clear with you. I'm not looking to reconnect with my family. Not now. Maybe not ever." "I understand," he said gently. "This isn't about healing. Not for them. Their calls, their apologies, they don't feel real. They feel strategic. Like they're trying to reel me back into the same chaos that broke me." "I hear you," he said again. "I've worked too hard to get here," I continued. "To find a rhythm, to build something solid. I'm not going to toss that away just because they're suddenly sorry, whatever that even means to them this week. You're allowed to draw that line," he said. "And I respect it. I want you to know," he added, "I'm not here to push. Healing is personal. No one, not even me, gets to tell you what that should look like." We sat in silence for a few seconds, a quiet that didn't feel awkward or forced, just peaceful. "I'll keep you in my prayers, David," he said finally. Not the performative kind, either, but sincerely. "I hope peace finds you, however it needs to." I let those words sit with me. They didn't feel like the guilt-laced blessings I used to hear at the dinner table. They felt real, and I appreciated that more than I knew how to say. A few weeks later, I got a message from my cousin. No words, just a link. It led to a local news blog. Not exactly the New York Times, but it was something. The headline? A report on a small-town crypto fraud scheme. One of those shiny, too-good-to-be-true investments that promise the world to people desperate for a win. I skimmed through it, expecting nothing. Then I saw his name. Lucas. He'd apparently been hyping up some bogus startup, promising massive returns to anyone who got in early. It turned out to be a textbook pyramid scheme wrapped in tech jargon. The money was gone. The article listed a few of the people who'd lost everything. And right there, in the middle of it all, my parents. I stared at the screen, not blinking, not even breathing. I remembered my mother's voice on the phone, how desperate she sounded, how she begged me to reconsider, told me they were on the verge of losing everything. Back then, I thought it was just another guilt trip. Emotional bait to drag me back into their mess. I didn't believe it, but it was real. A little digging online told me the truth. They lost the house. My house. The one I grew up in. The one they kicked me out of so they could repurpose my bedroom into a nursery for their precious grandchild. Gone. Sold at a loss when the debts finally piled too high to ignore. The nursery? Empty now. Someone else's space. The living room where I used to be scolded about forgiveness and family loyalty? Gone too. Months later, they were living in a cramped rental above a strip mall on the east side of town. One bedroom. Paper-thin walls. Blinds that barely worked. I went there once. Didn't knock. Just stood across the street and watched. It didn't even look like them anymore. Later, I found out my dad had picked up a job at a 24-hour diner just off Highway 14. Minimum wage. Graveyard shifts. One night, I drove out there. Parked in the lot. Watched him through the window, the glass foggy with grease and steam. He looked small. Not the larger-than-life man who used to command every room. Just an old guy in a stained apron, limping from table to table with a rag in his hand. My mom was behind the counter, punching numbers into the register, smiling politely at customers who had no clue who she used to be, who she thought she was. Funny how life rewrites the script. And Lucas? Divorced. Sophia packed her bags and left a few months after the fraud story broke. Moved in with someone else, someone, I assume, with a job that didn't involve selling digital snake oil. Someone who offered her the stability my brother never could. It's true what they say, karma doesn't need an invitation. Sometimes, it just shows up and sits on your front steps until you open the door. And no, I didn't feel joy. What I felt was clarity. Every lie, every excuse, every fake version of the truth they tried to sell me had finally collapsed. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the broken one. I wasn't the outcast or the exile. I was the one who made it out. Maybe that was the divine plan all along. Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.